Hey everybody, I'm back. Today I wanted to go in a bit of a different direction. There's been a lot of talk and discussion, upheaval, I guess, in the media these days about drag queens and putting on shows for families with children. And at the show, I came across an incredibly upsetting video about is being gay contagious, and they touch on this point and some other things, and it's just god awful. And while I don't want to give them any more views, I'm gonna see the video here anyways. I thought it was important to put out a perspective because I have lived experience with a lot of these topics they're talking about, not all of them. But you know, you have in our society, we've taken so many steps forward, and yet we still have very far right-wing conservative Judeo-Christian belief systems that are totally dismantling and upsetting and regressing our society. And I think it's important that people stand up and take a stand and do reviews like this based on the resources that we have, and one of those is the internet and the YouTube platform. And so I'm going to walk through that video today, and guys, tell me what you think. So let's get into it.
Do you still think that being gay is contagious?
That what's contagious?
That being gay is contagious. Because we just kind of like slipped past that and we talked about something else, and I can't stop thinking about it.
Okay, look. When I was in my 20s and 30s, if I was a bachelor today, not a married man, it's a different parameter. So, for example, why people call me Alpha King Nima to be exact.
Okay.
That is the embodiment of fuck bitches get money.
But
And I say that with respect to the bitches, because Alpha King Nima loves the bitches. No, but I'm serious.
Yeah, keep going.
No, but I'm serious. So
Keep going.
It's you know, it's
answer the question.
no, but it's two different things. It's are you if I'm married, I'm married. I'm locked in. I'm confirmed. I'm not playing games. That's
so
my
you're
because
saying
my
a
daughter.
single man can be influenced to change his sexuality by a gay man?
Can I ask you a question?
You
Have you noticed?
So was he saying that a bachelor in their 20s or 30s, and him having been one, I guess, that he was more susceptible to the contagious nature of being gay because he was a bachelor versus married?
How many more people are gay now in America
Of course.
than 50 years ago? I just watched a video. A gay man.
Well, not just in America, and a large part of the rest of the world as well. And it's because 50 years ago, we were being murdered. We didn't have the ability to own who we were and to fall into the relationships that we wanted to have because it was so taboo and there was such a stigma, and it could result in the end of our life. That's why. And that's
Dressed as a woman.
not even true for now. Like there's Matthew Shepard happened October 6th of 1998. So we're talking just 35 years ago. And there's still crime happening now. Hate crimes are happening now based on sexual identity. Based on sexuality, gender identity, race. Like that's still happening today. And that's a whole nother can of worms of where we're at in society with racism. But like
Dancing around a toddler.
I don't think it's fair to put drag queens and just
No, I do.
regular Joe
That's a
Schmo
part-
gay people in the same boat. Like I think that
why does there have to be a division at all? What is she trying to get at?
that is it's reflecting badly on the
Put it like
average
this.
gay man.
Well, TikTok is a great example. They basically have a gay. I think he's gay. I heard a rumor that he might be a transvestite. Kuduzi, well known, head of marketing. Like he's one of the guys that helps curate the TikTok FYP. Anybody can find him on Twitter. Kuduzi. You can look at his pictures. Flaming, by all objectively speaking, flaming gay.
Objectively speaking, flaming gay. And who are you to determine what that entails? How are you defining flaming?
Possibly trans. He invites Drew Buffalo. You know Drew.
I'm sorry, possibly trans. So I think he said transvestite. So it sounds like he needs to be educated on his terminology. Transvestite and transgender are two very different things. So I'm not sure that I apologize. I don't know him or the people on this panel or the people that he's talking about. So it may just be me needing to educate myself on who he's talking about, but I feel like he's misinterpreting his description of who he thinks these people are because he's not educated.
Follow? Drew Buffalo, toxic feminist queen, promotes her account, which now we find out are heated accounts, Adam. Heated accounts.
What's heated account mean?
That heated account
Okay.
is a TikTok employee, which, as we know, is a fake company. It's actually controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Xi Jinping, Xiao Zhu, the CEO of CCP TikTok, has pledged allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party, which is a fake company controlled by the Chinese Communist. It literally is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. You can't gaslight me. All right, the fake company.
So is his argument against the fact that this person is transvestite, transgender, aligning with CCP, or maybe all of them? I don't know. Where's his argument going?
Now, Xiao Zhu has pledged allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party flag. They put their vile hate towards the United States with a possible trans Kaduzi, definitely a homosexual, and then he puts Drew.
Well, I think that was him trying to cover a little bit homosexual. Calm down, guy. I'm not going to speak to the politics of this portion. I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. And frankly, it's not a thing that I would even get into or remotely put energy towards trying to fix, change, understand. So I'm not going to address that. It's not impacting my life that I know of. So I'm leaving it alone.
Drew Buffalo, to make fun of men for being short, fat, and bold. I got banned over 780,000 followers on that filth app because I spoke up about the Chinese Communist Party.
I'm wondering if he got banned because of the speaking out against the Chinese Communist Party, or if he got banned because of the vile bullshit that he spews from his mouth. Maybe both.
And Drew Buffalo. And the relationship with Kaduzi. This guy, Kaduzi, invited Drew Buffalo to come to a TikTok event and talk about culture on the app. Of course it's outrageous.
I just think that lumping in.
Why is that a thing? Like, we should talk about culture, where the human race is built on many different religions and sects of people and cultures. And in order for a society to move forward and be better, we do need to learn about them. Okay?
The people that you're talking about, who I think are radical examples of woke culture and left wing.
Radical examples of woke culture and left wing, as opposed to, I'm guessing, your conservative far right view.
And with just, regular gay people, or even especially conservative gay people, I think.
Regular gay people? Well, I'm gay. I don't know if I'm regular or not, but
that for those people who are on the same side of the political aisle as we are, it alienates them.
We'll put it like this: after I fired.
Well, I will say I can't speak for everybody, but I'm not sure that even a conservative gay person. And I hate using it that way, a conservative person who part of their identity is that they're gay, I feel like they would have a problem with the way this is being delivered. I'm not saying that the talk and the discussion maybe isn't something that's worthwhile, but the way it's being delivered is just...
That gay employee because I was worried about it being contagious and affecting the rest of us. Did you notice that 6 months later, not one guy was gay on our team?
So he fired someone for being gay, which is protected under the Equal Opportunity Act. And 6 months later, he didn't have any gay employees. So if I knew the kind of crap that he was spewing out of his mouth, I wouldn't want to work for him. I would be afraid to work for somebody like this. Not to mention the fact that I would have zero respect to even remotely think about working for someone like this. But and I don't know anything about his company or who he is. Maybe he simply just didn't have anybody else in his company that was gay.
Coincidence? So one thing that comes to mind when you say that is correlation does not equal causation. And a lot of people make assumptions very easily. It could also be that none of your team was gay.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
But you can't.
It worked in our case.
Yeah, but you don't think that being gay is contagious? Like, I'll give you an example.
I wouldn't say contagious, but I think if it is around people who maybe are questioning their sexuality, maybe it's a little bit more welcome. You're like, oh.
Well, but isn't that a good thing? Like, it is around, lady. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's been around your whole life, and it will continue to be around your whole life, whether it's out in the open or not. Like, and of course, people are going to start thinking about it more. I know in my own life, growing up in the very religious household that I didn't see that. I was, my exposure was put in this very tight box of what I needed to think, say, believe. And so that exposure didn't happen until I was older, 17, 18 years old. And the shame and guilt that I felt growing up the way I did, very much started to go away because I realized that I wasn't alone and that people like me could exist out in the open. And maybe I didn't have to be so fearful of this thing that I felt inside of me. So yes, it does it in terms open up the mind to the potentiality of discovering who you are. Absolutely. But by no means do I feel like having those thoughts and being in those situations and having that exposure is going to contagiously make you gay. Like,
well, he's gay, so like I can like breathe a little. Like, for those people who are gay and they want to hide it. You meet someone who is, you're like, okay, like, I'm going to cling to you. And so maybe that's where you kind of came in and said, look, I'm going to cut that out. I don't want to have any distraction. Like, maybe that was just like because I think about it, like, business should not have to do with, like, you being gay or you being straight or, like, business is business. And
right. So why didn't you call him out for the fact that he fired somebody based on his sexuality? Like, sure, business, as far as business goes, shouldn't have anything to do with your sexuality, but it's still going to be there, and it's still something that your employees are going to discuss.
Like, because I think about it, like, business should not have to do with, like, you being gay or you being straight or, like, business is business. And
if you're an alpha male, you should be able to be around women, around men, around gay men, without it challenging your sexuality.
I'll say this. I think there's two different schools of thought here. It's because Bill Maher did an amazing story on this, I don't know, 6 months ago about how America's getting gayer and gayer and gayer and gayer. Yeah. And by the time that we're in 2050, we're all going to be gay. La, 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 la.
Well, that's not true. And Bill Maher's a comedian, so I would love to watch the episode he's talking about to even see if, was it like satire? Was it like, what's the context of what Bill Maher was actually saying? I don't think our culture is getting gayer and gayer and gayer. I think that our society is becoming hopefully more inclusive, and we're moving towards a place where we're recognizing that there are other people that make up our society, and that it's okay for those people to exist in America and in the world. And I hate the fact that there are places in the world still where you have to hide pieces of who you are. I think that's incredibly sad, but I don't think we're getting gayer and gayer. I think we're becoming more and more aware and accepting. And I actually attribute this to a little bit of my generation and the generations that are coming up, their ability to have that inclusiveness and to at least sit in the perspective of someone else and try to learn and educate themselves.
But
and he's right.
So I'll give you two different perspectives.
It's not me.
Me neither.
I'll give you two different perspectives. So some would say, well, people didn't feel comfortable or free to express their sexuality 20, 50, 100 years ago. Right. So of course that's becoming more the norm now because they're just expressing themselves. Cool, got it. Then, kind of like what we talked about in America, we have it so freaking good here that you have something that you need to complain about, that like even if you're not gay and it's kind of cool to be gay, you'd be like, maybe I'm gay a little bit. I don't know.
I think
cool.
I think you're talking about gender politics.
Well, I think
gender politics. I don't think so. I'm gonna have to educate myself more on that. I'm very much more or less uneducated when it comes to political stuff like that, especially that term. But so I don't know. I think he's just maybe mixing up his verbiage here. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's trying. Maybe we'll see. We're not becoming gayer and gayer and gayer. And the thing he said about shoot, I'm going blank here. Maybe it's cool. It's a fad. Maybe I am a little bit. Well, that's what the exploration of identity, it occurs as we're growing up, and for us to be exposed to all these potential pieces of our identity along the way while we're in those formative years, that's a healthy thing. That's what that is meant to do. That's how we're meant to find ourselves and who we feel we are, and how we feel settled in the core of who we are. And that doesn't necessarily change in those formative years. I'm still, learning and being mindful and trying to continue on my self-growth journey and discover, are there other pieces of me that make me feel a little bit more whole and complete? And am I becoming a little bit more of a better person than I was yesterday? So I don't
think that there's that dynamic right there. Here's what I will say. Like, born and raised in Miami, I've been around gay people partying. 100% of the people I've had sex with are women. So I've been to gay clubs. Never once was it even like an option. Not my thing. Meaning, I don't think that it's contagious. Like, if you're a dude and you're into chicks, bro, if there's chicks at a gay club, I'm not saying I go there all the time. I've been like 2 or 3 times. Dude, be a straight guy in a gay club. There's going to be girls there. Pick of the litter. Yeah. Like, you get any.
Well, I will. Okay, but I ascribe to the belief that sexuality is a spectrum. You could be all the way at 0, you could be all the way at 100, straight, gay, however you want to define those polar ends, and then bi, and you have kind of this spectrum. So maybe you dial in a little bit more this way or that way, but I think what we found is like people just want to be able to have the attractions they have and spend time and form relationships with those that they want to form them with. And it doesn't necessarily correlate with the genitalia that they have or the sexual preference necessarily that they have for a lot of people. I will give them just a small bit of credit, though. I do know that a lot of the straight women that I have, when they do come across a straight man in a gay club, there is a little bit more of an attraction or kind of that intrigue is the word I'm looking for. Because if you're a straight man confident enough in who you are and you're out having fun at a gay club, that does paint a little bit of a picture as to who you could be.
Chick you want there, because they're like, oh my God, this one straight guy he's going to hang out with. So I don't think it's contagious. At the same time, I think the as far as sexuality contagious, but the mindset of like, yeah, it's okay. I'll be now. Here's what I will not stand for, and I actually want to get your thought on this. Don't fuck with the kids. No drag queens 100%. Around the kids. No indoctrination around the kids.
Right.
Like any kid, don't even come near me with LBGDTXY.
Well, get the acronym correct if you're going to use it. LGBTQIA+. I think they're starting to lean into the drag queen the family event that I think kind of started this all off, where they were having a drag queen show that was going to be family oriented and allow kids in. So, first off, second off, wherever I'm at, you're indoctrinated no matter who you are from the moment you're born, based off of the raising that you get. I was indoctrinated into the Judeo-Christian world. When I was adopted, those were the parameters that were set for what I needed to see, think, feel, believe. That was my indoctrination. And I am now unraveling still religious trauma based off of the indoctrination that I had. So it's not fair to simply say indoctrination in this realm, that it's only these marginalized views or left-wing this or that, or just certain concepts that we use this word indoctrination with. You were indoctrinated. Every person on that stage was indoctrinated with something in their life. And it's up to that individual person as they grow up and decide to form the life that they want and who they are, to determine whether or not that indoctrination is something that maybe has become traumatic because it does not align with who you are, or if it is something that you're accepting and carrying forward and with the rest of your life or a part of your life.
Leave the kids alone. If you're 16 plus, 18 plus.
And then I just had a conversation with my roommate just a few minutes ago. These drag shows that people are taking their kids to, that's on the parents. That's not up to we're placing blame on, it's all about drag shows and there's kids involved. And oh my, it's the parents that are taking them. It's not the decision of anybody else, except for if they're a minor, it's up to the parents. And if you want to determine that it's this age or that age appropriate based on what's going on in these shows and the content of them, that's on the parents to decide whether or not it's age appropriate for their child.
Whatever you want to identify as an adult, free to do whatever you want to do with your body. You're 18, 19, 20, you want to chop your dick off, God bless. But if you're 12 years old, stay the hell away from these kids. I have a 10-year-old nephew. I almost killed my sister one time because she's like, oh no.
But see, that's not it's not stay the hell away from these kids. Drag queens are not, and us that are a part of us identifies with being gay. We're not going out and seeking out kids. They're coming to our shows that we put on based on the decision of their parent. What?
It's okay for him to be a ballerina. I said to cut this shit out real quick. Okay.
And your sister raising her child the way she wants to has nothing to do with you. And if you're going to try to introduce gender roles, you need to ask your sister first if it's okay. I do not ascribe to traditional gender roles either, just to put that out there. If the kid wants to be a ballerina, let him be a ballerina.
I don't play this game. I know you have.
And how many of us growing up at the ages between 8, 12, 15 did how many different things that our parents paid for and we never actually followed through and became a pro at any of them? I played piano for a long time, regret that I quit. I was in karate for a while, regret that I quit. I did a whole bunch of stuff and I moved on from that because what was I doing? I was trying to find the pieces of my identity that fit with who I was.
Strong opinions about this. I think you've said something about only bad parents take their kids to a drag queen show.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
Not up to you to determine whether or not a parent is bad at parenting. You don't get to say, sir. Let's see what this guy
Absolutely.
has.
No, look, and I'm boycotting Pizza Hut, and I think every single person watching this should boycott Pizza Hut because of what they have been doing with the drag shows and kids.
Well, I'm not familiar with what they're doing.
Well, they're giving free pizza to events that host these drag queens.
I mean, that's
I'm aghast too. What? So you're boycotting Pizza Hut because they are catering these events when Pizza Hut and a whole bunch of other restaurants cater to other events and charities and other things like that too? Or are we just targeting it right now because it's something that you don't like?
how you get kids, candy and pizza.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
And drag.
If there's anybody out there that watches this video and does not agree with the things that they're saying, please go out and order Pizza Hut tonight.
So, our kids are 100% off limits. It's outrageous. If they come near any children, any of my children, I don't have any children, but in the future, they'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life because...
So he's threatening physical harm, lifelong physical harm of someone. I feel like that's hate. That would be a hate crime, sir. Oh my God.
That is how we need to be, because we cannot allow our children, our treasure, the future of this country, we cannot allow them to be tarnished and groomed and all of those things that all of these sick... I mean, the whole way that education has gone here in the United States is... I mean, it used to be that saying, boys will be boys, right? Now the feminists have come in and said that you can't say boys will be boys anymore. That's
correct, but I don't think he understands why. So if you guys, people ascribe to traditional gender roles, like, and even in my life when I was growing up, like I was a boy and I did boy things that are typical of kids growing up. I took risks when I shouldn't have. I did my homework 3 stories in the air on the chimney. Like, I was a boy being a boy in that regard, in that generalization. But that's not what the feminist movement is talking about. We're talking about the fact that consent matters and that we're going to stand up when people are abusing their power and when rape occurs. Like, that's the thing where we're no longer allowing this boys will be boys thing to go on any longer. And I think it's men like you that are perpetuating the fact that that thing can still exist when absolutely it cannot. And I'm sorry if that's threatening to you, sir, but it's getting shut down.
That's toxic. That's wrong. Boys shouldn't be boys. And so now it's anti-woman.
That's what I was going to say. Like, if you ascribe to traditional gender roles and you want to pass that on to your kids and bring them up with that type of indoctrination, that's your choice. You know, if you want to define what being a boy is for, you know, your son, you know, that's on you. But don't get it mixed up with this idea that that's what the feminist movement against that term is talking about.
We've got men competing against women, swimming, athletics, all of that kind of stuff. This is all related. And we've lost our Christianity, we've lost God, we've lost our values, we've lost those Judeo-Christian sentiments that founded this country. Okay. And it's very sad.
And there it was, the religious basis for his whole argument, and probably everybody on that stage. This country was not founded on Judeo-Christian beliefs. It was founded on religious freedom. We fled England because we didn't want to be a part of the Church of England. We wanted religious freedom. And that religious freedom for the people that came over here were, yes, it was Judeo-Christian beliefs, sure. And a lot of the phrasing that has gone into the first documents that we had as a country do reflect that. But make no mistake, we made the First Amendment of our Constitution to include religious freedom so anyone would not be persecuted and be allowed to live and believe in the way that they wanted. And he's attempting to push his ideals and beliefs about these situations based on his religious belief system. And that's not okay. America is not about that. America is about religious freedom, not to be put in a box based on his individual beliefs or the larger Christian community.
It's very, very sad, and it's something that is so dangerous. Soz, I feel very passionately about it, but I think anybody that is trying to fundamentally alter the gender, the identity, the sexuality of young children, they are the scum of the scum.
So he's discussing the fact that it's the drag queens and the I think the larger gay community, that we're trying to change someone's sexuality or identity, and that's just simply not the case. I'm sure that those people exist out there, and of course that's disgusting and horrible and wrong. But by and large, the community is trying to open up and be a part of the larger community and not be like sectioned off and marginalized. And hey, this is what we're about. This is what we do. Come see, immerse yourself in our culture and see what we're about. Has nothing to do with trying to convince anybody anything. I think that when it comes to marginalized sects of people, they probably are more, and I would say possibly part of the reason that I am so in tune with inclusion and wanting people to feel welcome and having exposure to different belief systems and cultures and sects of society is because I was marginalized, and there to a degree still feel that way in some instances and in my life, in pieces of my life that I am that I deal with, from day to day or whatever. But it's more about inclusion and exposure. When I was growing up and having the guilt and the shame and feeling like there was these feelings that I were having were just so wrong, and there's no way that someone that was immersed in their faith as much as I was could possibly be this thing that was this gay thing. And because of the box that my parents put me in, for lack of better terminology, I didn't have exposure to this kind of stuff. And if I had, I wouldn't have felt the shame and the guilt and alone and just unraveling trauma to this day that I suffered because of all of that. And I think that my parents did the best that they could and that they raised me in a loving home. And I don't want to detract from that. But this is also true. I did have those feelings. I did live through those moments. And had I had access to a drag show, or if I was taken to a pride parade, I would not have felt alone, and I wouldn't have felt the shame of leaning into this piece of me that felt so wrong. It wouldn't have felt wrong because I was indoctrinated to believe a certain way. And so I therefore thought, how in the world are you going to live with this piece of you? How are you going to get by? How are you going to ever, find added happiness in this world when you can't even be honest with yourself? And you most definitely can't be honest with the world.
I'm on this earth.
Yeah, well said. Nat, I see when he talked about sports. And it's
I hate
funny.
that.
You never see women transitioning into men
Yeah.
to compete in men's sports.
Yes.
That never happens.
No.
It's always men taking the easy way.
I can't speak to that. I don't know the statistics. I don't follow sports. Maybe I should if I'm going to be getting into this anymore. But if that's true, maybe it just hasn't happened yet. Whatever.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're competing with the women. But, you're a pretty athletic chick.
Yeah.
You've got strong feelings on what's going on here. What are your thoughts on what Nick said?
I agree with some of the things you said. I think today, actually, a story broke on Valuetainment's website that Hershey put on their commercial. They are marketing a trans woman for Women's Day.
I seem to be vaping a lot. I think this is giving me a little bit of stress. Transgender woman, or just maybe a woman, is representing Hershey. Okay,
We are confused. Unfortunately, we are confused. I see stuff like that, and it's like,
maybe you're confused. Like, I don't see
what is the value of a real woman? It's like a very confused, like
a real woman. So you're saying that a person who does not feel like their outsides match their insides, who has taken, and I don't even know the entire course of steps that has to be taken, but I know that it is very lengthy. They go through all of that to feel whole and like their body finally matches who they feel they are, and you're going to say that they're not a real woman?
Anybody can do it, and it devalues what women really can do in the world. There's pros and there's cons to it, just like everything else. But to see us embrace the confusion, it's very sad, and it worries me for what's ahead. You know, Women's Day is going to be celebrated, and we're going to be having men in dresses to celebrate this.
No, you're going to have a woman in a dress.
Year, and you know, everybody's free to do what they want, to be how they feel, and absolutely, but to force everybody to accept you and call you a woman and ma'am, like, I personally don't agree with it.
Okay, so we're not asking you to accept it, but you do need to respect people for who they are. So if a transgender woman wants you to address her as a female, then you should do that. So either you're telling me that you have a total lack of respect for another human being on this earth simply based on one aspect of who their identity is based around or defined as. Okay.
I am not going to be forced to call you ma'am if you're not a ma'am. I'm not going to, bend the rules to make you feel better. If there's a man in a dress.
Whose rules? Your very far-right conservative Judeo-Christian views? So now they have to conform to you?
In a girl's bathroom, I'm getting out of the bathroom. Like, I am not okay with that. I'm not comfortable with that.
And that is her right. She has the right to leave the bathroom if she wants to.
But I don't think it's okay. You can have your own bathroom. You can go be in the man's bathroom. But, like, I also feel very passionate about that because, we come from a place where, like, women, we're out in the world, and yes, the promiscuity has raised so much. So, like, by default, men are, like, trying to get at these women. And then it's like, are you dressed up like this?
And I'm wondering, is that okay with her? Is, like, she's correlating the rise in promiscuity with men getting at women. So is that something that maybe she wants to use her platform to stop? Because that goes back to that whole boys will be boys ideology where we have lack of consent and rape.
This and trying to be around women so you can be near us, and like there's so many things that go through your mind, and it worries me because it's like you're influencing other people around. People who are unsure of their identity, and as you grow up, you are unsure of your identity. So when you see different things, you're like, oh, maybe I'm that, maybe I'm this, oh, I kind of like that. Like, it's embracing that confusion, and it's very.
But that's the whole point of how our brain ages from, in that time where we are discovering the pieces of our identity that fit well. That's what we're supposed to do. Maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that. Oh, this seems right to me. I need to lean into this a little bit more. That's what discovering our identity and building who we are, that's what it's about. And it is confusing by its very nature. Adding these things and having exposure and having us talk more about it and having a more inclusive culture doesn't take that confusion away. And it's not these things that they're talking about on stage right now. That's not the only thing that adds to the confusion. Absolutely, it was confusing for me growing up, trying to understand the feelings that I was having and the attraction that I was having. And then also because of the religious indoctrination that I had, to not feel shame and guilt of that. and feeling like I needed to fit in this little box.
Very scary. And that's why I think today it's very important that we have strong men leading the world. We have, beautiful feminine women influencing the women out there and encouraging, like.
What about strong, independent women as leaders and leading the world? Because there's some badass chicks out there.
You to go through your process and find your identity, but to embrace a trans woman on this Hershey commercial, like, I read the article, and I was like, I just couldn't even like imagine that. And the sports, it's like, why?
Well, I applaud Hershey's for their inclusive nature and trying to help bridge this gap between mainstream society and marginalized people. I applaud them for that. On the other hand, you have every right, lady, to not like it. Like, you can do that.
Why am I competing with a man whose shoulders are this much wider, they're this much taller, and then I have to sit here and compete with them because, they've got long hair and
they've got more oppression points than you do.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very sad. I don't agree with it. You're more than welcome to do what you want to do with your life and your body, but I personally am not going to conform to whatever you.
Oppression points? Holy. And we're not asking her to conform. Like, you don't have to change your beliefs. We're talking about acknowledging the fact that there are different people that exist in the world and just respecting them as human beings and letting them live the lives that they feel they need to lead, that the identity that they've built for themselves is true to who they are, and that you respect that. That's legit it.
You feel like you want to be that dude.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't know that we had Dr. Jordan Peterson on the panel. Shout out to Natalia, aka Jordan Peterson, on the panel today. So if you like that clip, click right here.
God, I didn't like it at all. So I'd like to add just real quick, I am curious to know if any of those members on stage have actually taken the time to go and experience these sects of culture themselves. Have they gone to a drag show? Have they gone to a pride parade? Have they sat down and talked with members of the gay community? Have they done anything to actually understand, learn, educate their own perspective of who they're talking about and making decisions on, and very vile and gross opinions that they have? Because I would say probably no. Probably all of their information is being taken from headlines in the news and very right-wing conservative interviews that have happened on TV, and probably nothing to do with actually immersing themselves in the culture enough to understand what this culture is actually like. So don't really give any credence to what they've said. Obviously, I think it's, again, vile and gross. You guys make your own judgments. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms, please leave them in the comments. Do all of that like, share, notification stuff if you want to. And, leave me ideas in the comments if there's any kind of videos that you would like to see in the future. And I'm Chad, and I'm 5x5. Be the change and make it count.